I lit the last candle on the dining table and stepped back, studying the glow flickering against the crystal glasses. 10 years of marriage, and it should have meant something. The smell of rosemary chicken filled the air, but all I could taste was anxiety. Daniel was late again. When he finally walked in, his smile looked rehearsed, the kind he used in board meetings. He kissed my cheek, cold and brief, and murmured, "You look beautiful, Em." I tried to believe him, to let the warmth of his voice erase the past few weeks, the distance, the late nights, the excuses that felt too polished to be true. We sat across from each other. The candlelight caught the lines near his eyes I'd never noticed before. He kept glancing at his phone beside his plate, thumb twitching every few seconds. "You've been quiet lately," I said softly, slicing through my chicken though I couldn't eat. He looked up, startled. "Just work." "You know how it gets." The lie slid off his tongue too easily. My stomach turned, but I forced a smile. I didn't want to ruin tonight, our night, even if it already felt hollow. He raised his glass. "To 10 years, I echoed. "To 10 years, though my voice cracked halfway. We clinked glasses, and in that moment, his phone buzzed. Once, then again. The screen lit up, face down, a soft glow between us. I reached instinctively, pretending to move my napkin. The phone flipped just enough for the name to flash. Sophie. Then the message. "Can't wait to see you tonight." My heart stopped. Every sound in the room vanished. The clinking silverware, the hum of the ceiling fan, even his breathing. The words burned into me like an open flame. I set down my fork, careful, deliberate. "You have plans after dinner?" He blinked. "What?" "No, why?" I smiled again, that awful practice smile I'd seen in the mirror for years. "No reason. Just wondering." He didn't notice the tremor in my voice. Or maybe he pretended not to. When he kissed me goodnight an hour later and said he'd finish some work in the study, I nodded. But my hands were already cold, my mind already unraveling. Something inside me whispered, "This anniversary will be our last." The morning after our anniversary, Daniel left early. The imprint of his body still lingered on his side of the bed, the pillow faintly smelling of his cologne, expensive, sterile, nothing like the man I'd married. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the words from that message looping through my mind. "Can't wait to see you tonight." I told myself there had to be an explanation, a joke, a misunderstanding, some mistake. But as the days unfolded, denial began to rot from the inside out. He started taking late-night calls in the hallway, whispering, laughing softly. Once I caught the tail end of a sentence. "You make everything worth it." When he saw me standing there, he froze, then smiled like nothing had happened. "You should sleep." You've been stressed lately," he said, placing a hand on my shoulder. Gentle and rehearsed. "Who are you talking to?" "Just a client," he replied. "Don't start this again. Again." The word hit like a slap. I wanted to believe him, but tiny betrayals began to collect like shards of glass. A lipstick-stained receipt from a restaurant we'd never been to, perfume lingering on his jacket, a faint scratch on his neck. I started checking his phone when he showered. At first, nothing, as if he'd scrubbed it clean. Then one night, I found a contact saved as MT Services. My heart pounded as I opened the thread. No invoices, just messages. "Miss you already?" "Can't talk." "She's home." That was when something in me cracked. That evening, I cooked dinner like everything was normal. Roast, salad, a glass of wine poured too full. He walked in, kissed my head, and sat down, scrolling through his phone like always. "You've been busy," I said. My tone was light, too controlled. He didn't look up. "You know how the quarter's been. Do you ever stop working? Even at midnight?" He laughed, shaking his head. "You're imagining things again, Emily. You always do this when you're anxious." His words crawled under my skin. Imagining things. That's what he said when I found the texts last year, the ones he swore were harmless. I stared at him across the table, watching his jaw tighten, the flicker in his eyes that betrayed guilt. I wanted to scream, but instead I smiled. A hollow, lifeless smile. "You're right," I whispered. "Maybe I am." He reached across the table, took my hand, performative comfort, nothing real. When he left to finish reports in his office, I followed the echo of his steps, quiet as a ghost. through the half-open door. I saw him, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and tender. "I'll see you tomorrow, Soph. I promise." And just like that, denial died. I didn't sleep that night. The sound of Daniel's voice saying her name, Soph, replayed in my head until dawn bled through the curtains. By morning, my chest felt hollow, my mind sharp. I needed to see her, Sophie Turner, the woman he thought I'd never find. I started at the obvious place, his office. His assistant, unaware of what I was really asking, mentioned Sophie in passing. "Oh, she's the new project coordinator. Daniel practically mentored her." Mentored. I almost laughed. By noon, I was parked across the street from their building, watching streams of employees come and go. Then I saw her. She stepped out wearing a red dress, bold, polished, the kind of red that announces confidence. She laughed as Daniel followed behind, hand brushing her back lightly. They walked side by side, unaware of the woman watching from a gray sedan across the road. They turned into a cafe on the corner. My hands shook as I followed, slipping inside quietly, sitting at a table behind a tall potted plant. I could see them through the leaves, two people who looked more like lovers than co-workers. Sophie leaned forward, eyes soft, smile effortless. Daniel reached across the table, touched her hand. The world around them faded into a blur of chatter and clinking cups. Every rational thought inside me screamed to confront them, to shatter the illusion. But I didn't move. I just watched. Every gesture, every shared glance carved something deep inside me. Not pain, but precision. When Daniel excused himself to answer a call, Sophie's expression shifted. She stared out the window, lips pressed tight, as if guilt briefly visited her. Then she reached for her phone. I caught a glimpse of the background. Him, laughing, shirtless. That was enough. I left before they could see me. The bell above the cafe door chiming softly as I stepped into the afternoon sun. My pulse was calm now. My tears had dried somewhere between disbelief and resolve. It wasn't rage that filled me anymore. It was clarity. If he wanted to play house with his woman in red, he'd soon learn I could play a part too. And when he returned home that evening, smiling like nothing had changed, I smiled back because he would never know. I'd already decided what came next. He came home late again, the smell of expensive perfume clinging to him like a confession. I waited in the living room, the lights dimmed, the silence deliberate. He froze when he saw me. No smile this time, just weary irritation. "Long day?" I asked, my tone flat. "Very," he sighed, dropping his briefcase. "Can we not do this tonight?" "Do what?" I said, standing. "Ask where you've been? Who you've been with?" He rubbed his temples. "Emily, please. Not this again." "Again?" My voice trembled. "You mean asking my husband why another woman's lipstick is on his shirt?" His head snapped up, eyes sharp. "You're imagining things. You always twist everything until it becomes some tragic fantasy in your head." I laughed, a hollow, humorless sound. "I saw you, Daniel. At the cafe, with Sophie." His face shifted, a flash of panic quickly buried under practiced calm. "You followed me." "So it's true," he scoffed. "Do you even hear yourself? This," he gestured around the room, "this paranoia is why we're falling apart. You drive me insane with your accusations." I stared at him, every word slicing deeper. He wasn't defending himself. He was rewriting reality. "You've lied to me," I whispered. "I've tried to love you," he snapped. "But you make it impossible." Silence settled between us, heavy and final. He turned away first, muttering something about sleeping in the guest room. I watched his back disappear down the hallway, my heartbeat steady, my anger strangely quiet. In the bathroom, the mirror reflected a stranger, pale, trembling, eyes red with exhaustion. I opened the cabinet, fingers brushing along the bottles of pills and forgotten prescriptions. One small amber bottle caught my attention. Diazepam. His. I turned it over in my hand, reading the faded label. The pills rattled softly, such an innocent sound for something that could end everything. For a moment, I imagined the headlines, "Wife snaps on 10th anniversary." The image of Daniel's face, still and lifeless, flickered behind my eyes. Then I blinked and it was gone. Just a thought. Just an image. I placed the bottle back but left the cabinet door open. Somewhere between revenge and regret, a seed had been planted, and by the time dawn came, That seed had already started to grow. You said it was nearly midnight when the phone rang. The sound sliced through the quiet house like a warning. Daniel was asleep in the guest room again, snoring faintly, unaware that the walls between us were crumbling beyond repair. The number on the screen was unfamiliar. I almost ignored it, but something in my gut told me to answer. Hello? For a moment, nothing. Then a shaky breath. Emily, it's Sophie. Her voice was softer than I expected, young, uncertain, threaded with guilt. I froze, every muscle tightening. Why are you calling me? I didn't know who else to talk to, she stammered. Daniel. He's not who you think he is, I laughed quietly, bitterly. Trust me, I've figured that out. No, she insisted, voice cracking. You don't understand. He told me you two were separated. He said you were unstable, that you'd hurt yourself if he left you. He said he was staying with you out of pity. The words hit like cold water. Pity? I whispered. He promised he'd leave you, Sophie continued, almost pleading. He said we'd move away together once things settled. But lately, he's changed. He's distant with me too. I think he's lying to both of us. My pulse thundered in my ears. Daniel's manipulation ran deeper than I'd imagined. Two women, two versions of truth, both designed to make him the victim. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I can't sleep, she whispered. I keep wondering if anything he said was real. And if he's capable of worse. The silence that followed was heavy, alive. Be careful, Sophie, I said finally. You don't know what he's capable of. Her breath trembled on the other end. Neither do you. The line went dead. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, staring at the shadows crawling along the walls. My reflection in the dark window looked foreign, colder, sharper. Daniel stirred in the next room, his footsteps padding down the hallway. I slipped the phone into my pocket before he entered, pretending to read. Who were you talking to? He asked. No one, I lied smoothly. He nodded slowly, suspicion flickering behind his tired eyes. As he turned away, I caught my reflection again, and for the first time, I wasn't sure which of us was the real liar. The next morning, Daniel was suddenly affectionate again. He brought me coffee in bed, the same way he used to when things were simpler. His tone was soft, almost apologetic. Let's start over, he said. Dinner tonight, just us. No arguments. Part of me wanted to refuse, to stay angry, to keep control. But the other part, the one still aching for closure, nodded. All right, I whispered. By evening, the dining room looked like a photograph from our early years. Candles lit, soft jazz humming, wine breathing on the table. Daniel had cooked, which he never did. His eyes searched mine as I sat down, hesitant but curious. I've missed this, he said quietly. Which part? I asked. The pretending or the silence? He gave a small laugh, though it didn't reach his eyes. I know I've made mistakes, Em, but I'm trying. We both need to move past what happened. What happened? I repeated. You mean the affair? The lies? The fact that you told Sophie I was unstable? His fork froze midair. She called you, he said flatly. She did. And she's scared of you. Daniel leaned back, his expression shifting. Not shock, not guilt, but calculation. You shouldn't believe everything people tell you. Sophie's confused. You've always had a way of twisting stories until they suit your pain. My breath caught. The gaslighting was so smooth it almost worked. Almost. I reached for my wine, the deep red swirling like liquid truth. Then tell me your version, he smiled, lifting his own glass. My version is simple. I love my wife, and I'd do anything to make her trust me again. The toast hung between us. We drank. Minutes passed. His smile faltered. A sheen of sweat glistened on his forehead. He shifted in his chair, blinking hard. Is it hot in here? He muttered, clutching his stomach. I watched, heart pounding but face calm. No, Daniel. It's just you. He tried to stand, but his knees buckled. The glass fell from his hand, shattering on the floor. Emily. His voice broke into a rasp. What did you... I rose slowly, the sound of his labored breathing filling the room. Dinner, I said softly. Just like you wanted, he collapsed, gasping, and somewhere deep inside I felt nothing at all. The sunlight was too bright. It cut through the curtains like a blade, landing across my face. My head throbbed, my throat was dry, and for a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then I turned and saw him. Daniel lay slumped beside the dining table, his face pale, eyes half open but lifeless. The shattered wine glass glittered near his hand, a dark red stain pooling beneath it. For a second I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, unreal. I staggered forward, kneeling beside him. "Daniel," I whispered, shaking his shoulder. His body was cold, heavy, final. Fragments of the night flickered in my mind, the clink of glasses, his smile fading, his voice choking mid-word. Then nothing. Just silence. I couldn't remember pouring the wine, couldn't remember how much I'd had, couldn't even remember what I'd said when he fell. A siren wailed somewhere outside. My hands shook as I reached for my phone, but before I could dial, flashing lights illuminated the living room window. Someone had already called. 2 police officers burst through the door, followed by a man in a gray coat with a weary face, Detective Marcus Cole. His tone was calm, professional, but his eyes studied everything. The glasses, the bottle, the broken shards. "Mrs. Harris," he said gently, "we need you to step back." I didn't. "I don't know what happened," I stammered. "We were having dinner and he couldn't breathe." Cole crouched beside the body, gloved hands examining the table. His gaze caught on the wine bottle. "Was this opened last night?" "Yes," I whispered. He nodded, signaling to a forensics officer. "Take that in." As they lifted the bottle, I noticed the faint white residue along the rim. My stomach twisted. One of the officers returned moments later. "There's vomit traces in the sink, sir. And fingerprints, hers." Cole turned to me, voice steady. "Mrs. Harris, we'll need to take you in for questioning." I looked down at my hands, trembling, stained faintly pink. My fingerprints, my glass, my wine. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," I murmured. Cole's brow furrowed. "How was it supposed to happen?" But I had no answer. As they led me toward the waiting car, I glanced back one last time. The candles still burned on the table, melting slowly into nothing, just like the night before. The house no longer felt like mine. Yellow tape cut across the front door, sealing away what used to be my life. Every corner whispered of him, his books, his cologne, his ghost. Detective Marcus Cole stood in the hallway, gloved hands folded behind his back, eyes scanning the room with quiet calculation. "It's strange," he said. "Your husband had 3 life insurance policies. All recently updated," I blinked. 3, he nodded. "And all of them list you as the sole beneficiary." My stomach twisted. "I didn't know." He gave a small, unreadable smile. "People rarely do, until it matters." For days, I sat in interrogation rooms and stared at white walls, answering questions that blurred together. Poison analysis, motive, memory gaps. Every time I swore I didn't mean for him to die, the detectives exchanged glances that said otherwise. When they finally released me pending investigation, I returned home to silence. The house had been searched. Drawers left open, floors scuffed, everything slightly out of place. Yet, in Daniel's study, something new caught my eye. A faint outline on the carpet near the bookcase. I pushed against the shelf. It moved. Behind it, hidden in the wall, was a small safe. My pulse quickened as I twisted the dial, trying combinations. Our anniversary date opened it. Inside were letters, dozens of them, neatly stacked and sealed with red wax. Every one addressed to Sophie Turner. I unfolded the first. His handwriting, confident, romantic, deceitful. "You make me feel alive again. I'll end things with Emily soon. She's fragile, but she'll manage." The next one was darker. "If she ever finds out, I'll make her believe it was her fault. She always does." My vision blurred. These weren't just love letters. They were blueprints for manipulation. Then I found the last note, unsigned. "Don't worry. It'll look like an accident." My heart stopped. The ink was fresh. Was it written for Sophie in or from her? Detective Cole's voice echoed in my head. People rarely know until it matters. For the first time, I wondered if someone else had been there that night. And when the phone rang, an unknown number flashing again, I already knew who it would be. The storm came without warning. Heavy, relentless, drowning the streets in gray. I stood outside the cafe where it had all begun, coat soaked through, waiting. Sophie arrived late, umbrella trembling in her hand, eyes red as if she hadn't slept in days. "Why did you call me?" I asked, voice barely rising above the rain. She hesitated, glancing around as though someone might be watching. I needed to tell you the truth. I folded my arms. The truth seems to change depending on who's telling it. She flinched. That night, I came to the house, my breath caught. You what? I just wanted to talk to him, she said quickly, her words tumbling out. He told me it was over between you two. I didn't know he was lying. Not until I saw the table, the wine, everything set up like nothing had changed. Lightning cracked overhead. I could barely hear her over the roar of rain hitting the pavement. He got angry when I told him I was done, she continued. He said I ruined everything, that you'd never let him go. I left, I swear I did. But when I heard about his death the next morning, she broke off, shaking her head. I thought maybe it was my fault. I studied her face, trembling lips, wet hair clinging to her cheeks, but something in her tone didn't fit. You were there. You saw him alive. She nodded slowly. Then why did the police find 2 sets of fingerprints on the wine bottle? I asked. Her eyes widened, then darted away. I don't know. I stepped closer. You touched it, didn't you? You poured the wine. Her silence was answer enough. For a long moment, we stood there, 2 women bound by a man's lies and something far worse. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, Sophie whispered. I turned away, rain streaking down my face like tears I refused to shed. Neither did I said. But the truth, heavy and cold, followed me home, and it wasn't finished yet. Detective Marcus Cole called me back to the station 3 days later. His tone was calm, but there was something in it, that quiet weight of someone who already knew the ending. When I arrived, he gestured toward a small monitor on his desk. We found something during a deeper sweep of your house, he said. A hidden security system. Your husband installed cameras throughout the main floor. My chest tightened. Cameras? He nodded, pressing play. You should see this. The screen flickered to life, grainy footage of my kitchen, time-stamped the night of the dinner. Daniel sat at the table, wine poured, smiling nervously. I entered moments later, dressed in the same black dress I barely remembered putting on. We talked, at first calm, then louder, sharper. His gestures grew frantic. I could hear faint words through the speakers. You were never supposed to find out. My hand slammed the table. The wine shook in its glass, then the door opened. Sophie stepped into frame, drenched from the rain, her voice trembling. Please stop this. I watched in horror as my past unfolded in front of me. Daniel turned on her, shouting something I couldn't make out. She reached for him, maybe to calm him, maybe to stop him. He pushed her back, hard. I stood up shouting. The wine bottle tipped, spilling red across the table. Sophie grabbed it. Daniel lunged. In the chaos, my hand reached too. 3 hands, 1 bottle, a struggle, then a gasp. He fell. Silence. The 3 of us froze. Or maybe just the 2 of us still breathing. Sophie stumbled back, eyes wide, whispering, You killed him! No, I said in the video, voice barely human. We did. Then the camera caught me kneeling beside him, brushing hair from his face. My lips moved, whispering words I hadn't remembered until now. It was supposed to be love. Detective Cole stopped the recording. The silence that followed was unbearable. So, he said softly, it wasn't murder. It was madness. I stared at the dark screen, my reflection fractured by static. No, I whispered. It was marriage. Outside, rain began again, soft, endless, cleansing nothing at all.